we are going to start with problems 9 through 12 for the review for trig test 3. I stopped midstream in problem number 9 because I didn't like the way it looked. The problem on your study guide looks like this. Cosine of 7 pi over 18 times the sine of 2 pi over 9 minus the cosine of 2 pi over 9 times the sine of 7 pi over 18. We know that our identities for sum and difference are all matched up with the same angle first and before the plus or minus sign, and the same angle matched up with the same angle after the plus or minus sign. So here I've got cosine of A, here I've got sine of A. Well, this doesn't match that. This problem is not written correctly. We're going to fix that before we start. This should be the sine of 2 pi over 9 times the cosine of 7 pi over 18 minus the cosine of 2 pi over 9 times the sine of 7 pi over 18. Now, got the same angle right here, got the same angle right here. Look at your identity sheet. See which one of these identities is sine cosine minus cosine sine. Sum and difference formula that matches that is sine of alpha minus beta. This matches this problem. Now, let's go from there. Let's kind of rewrite this and start all over with number 9. And so my problem is sine of 2 pi over 9 times the cosine of 7 pi over 18 minus the cosine of 2 pi over 9 times the sine of 7 pi over 18. I know that this is the sine of alpha minus beta. Here's my alpha, here's my beta. I have the sine of 2 pi over 9 minus 7 pi over 18. Over to the side, I want you to combine these two. You know you have a least common denominator of 18. 9 goes into 18 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4 pi minus 7 pi over 18, which is negative 3 pi over 18, which is negative pi over 6. So I want to find the sine of negative pi over 6. Most convenient way to do that is to look at the unit circle. Negative pi over 6 says come down pi over 6. Look at the ordered pair. You know that that is cosine and that is sine. My answer is negative 1/2. If you're coming down pi over 6, that theta prime is 30 degrees. You know the sine of 30 is 1/2, and in this fourth quadrant it's negative. So if you are stuck on the exact value chart and thinking like this, which that's the way we've used it most of the time, then follow your logic. If you say, hey, I believe I'm going to use the unit circle and come down 30 degrees, and look right over here at the second number, I'm going to be at negative 1/2. Number 10. Verify the identity. The cosine of alpha plus beta plus the cosine of alpha minus beta equals 2 times the cosine of alpha times the cosine of beta. I want to rewrite all this and make changes to it, do whatever simplification I need to do, and show that this equals this. I have to do that with identities from this identity sheet. You know that the cosine of alpha plus beta is given by this identity, so I'm going to write that down. Have cosine of alpha times the cosine of beta minus the sine of alpha times the sine of beta. That came from this. Now I've got to do the same thing with cosine of alpha minus beta. That identity is cosine cosine plus sine sine. So I have plus cosine of alpha, cosine of beta, plus sine of alpha, sine of beta. Now, look at your terms. Look across there. I see that I have negative sine of alpha, sine of beta, positive sine of alpha, sine of beta. Those cancel. I've got these two terms which are exactly alike. If I've got one of them and another one of them, I've got two of them. That's going to give me 2 cosine of alpha, cosine of beta, and out jumped the rabbit. Number 11. Verify the identity cosine of x plus pi over 2 and prove that that equals negative sine of x. You're going to rewrite this with a sum or difference formula. X is your alpha, pi over 2 is your beta. This will be cosine of x times cosine of pi over 2 minus sine of x times the sine of pi over 2. Look at your exact value chart. You know that pi over 2 is 90 degrees. What is the cosine of 90 degrees? 0. So I have cosine of x times 0 minus sine of x. What is the sine of pi over 2? 1. 0 times anything is 0, so I just have negative sine of x, and guess what? That's what we wanted. Cosine of pi over 2 has a real value because that's like cosine of 90 degrees. It is 0. Sine of pi over 2 is like sine of 90 degrees. It is 1. When we simplify that, we get negative sine of x. Number 12. Cosine of alpha plus beta over cosine of alpha times the sine of beta equals the cotangent of beta minus the tangent of alpha. I want to prove that this expression is the same as this one. You're always going to look for ways that we can do that. By looking at your identity sheet. We've been looking at these sum and difference formulas. This cosine of alpha plus beta rewrite that as the numerator so that we have cosine of alpha, cosine of beta, minus sine of alpha, sine of beta, all over cosine of alpha, sine of beta. All I did was look at my identity sheet, make one substitution. Now, got a minus sign in here. That makes me happy because I want to get a minus sign so that I can match it up with that other side. Separate this expression so that you have cosine of alpha, cosine of beta, over cosine of alpha, sine of beta, minus sine of alpha, sine of beta, all over cosine of alpha, sine of beta. I just separated that numerator. This expression means the same thing as one above it. Now, what cancels? Cosine of alpha. What's cosine over sine? Cotangent. What cancels over here? Sine and sine. What's sine over cosine? Tangent. And there it is, the answer I was looking for.